Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on, where you are in this world. This is Gloria White coming to you from Utah, USA. God bless you, each and every one of you. Today we're continuing in the New Jerusalem Bible in the second book of Maccabees, and we are in section 6. The struggle of Judas against the neighboring peoples and against Lycia, minister of Antioch the Fifth. All right, reign of Antioch the Fifth, early years. Such were the circumstances attending the death of Antioch, styled Epiphanes. Our task now is to unfold the history of Antioch Epator, son of that godless man, and briefly to relate the evil effects of the wars. On coming to the throne, his prince put ahead of affairs a certain Lysias, the general officer commanding Colle, Syria, and Phoenicia, whereas Ptolemy, known as Macron, and the first person to govern the Jews justly, had done his best to govern them peacefully, to make up for the wrongs inflicted on them in the past, denounced in consequence to Eupator by the friends of the king. He heard himself called traitor at every turn for having abandoned Cyprus, which had been entrusted to him by Philometor, for having gone over to Antioch Epiphanes, and for having shed no luster on his illustrious office. He committed suicide by poisoning himself. Gorgias and the Idumean fortresses. Gorgias now became the general of the area. He maintained a force of mercenaries and a continual state of war with the Jews. At the same time, the Idumeans, who controlled important fortresses, were harassing the Jews, welcoming outlaws from Jerusalem, and endeavoring to maintain a state of war. Maccabees and his men, after having public supplication to God, entreating him to support them, began operations against the Idumean fortresses. Vigorously pressing home their attack, they seized possession of these vantage points, beating off all who fought on the ramparts. They slaughtered all who fell into their hands, accounting for no fewer than 20,000. 9,000 at least took refuge in 2 exceptionally strong towers with everything they needed to withstand a siege. Whereupon Maccabees left Simon and Joseph with Zacchaeus and his forces, in sufficient numbers to besiege them, and himself went off to other places requiring his attention. But Simon's men were greedy for money and allowed themselves to be bribed by some of the men in the towers, accepting 70,000 drachmas. They let a number of them escape. When Maccabeus was told what had happened, he summoned the people's commanders, and accused the offenders of having sold their brothers for money by releasing their enemies to fight them. Having executed them as traitors, he at once proceeded to capture both towers, successful in all that he undertook by force of arms. In these 2 fortresses he slaughtered more than 20,000 men. Judas defeats Timotheus and captures Gezer. Timotheus, who had been beaten by the Jews once before, now assembled an enormous force of mercenaries, mustering cavalry from Asia in considerable numbers, and soon appeared in Judea, expecting to conquer it by force of arms. At his approach, Maccabees and his men made their supplications to God, sprinkling earth on their heads and putting sackcloth round their waist, prostrating themselves on the terrace before the altar. They begged him to support them, and to show himself the enemy of their enemies, the adversary of their adversaries, as the law clearly states. After these prayers, they armed themselves and advanced a fair distance from the city, halting when they were close to the enemy. At the first light of dawn began to spread, the two sides joined battle, the one having as their pledge of success and victory not only their own valor but their recourse to the Lord, the other making their own ardor their mainstay in the fight. When the battle was at its height, the enemy saw 5 magnificent men appear from heaven on horses with golden bridles, and put themselves at the head of the Jews, surrounding Maccabeus and screening him with their own armor. They kept him unscathed while they rained arrows and thunderbolts on the enemy until, blinded and confused, they scattered in complete disorder. 20,500 infantry and 600 cavalry were slaughtered. Timotheus himself fled to a strongly guarded citadel called Gezer, where Sharius was in command. 4 days Maccabeus and his men eagerly besieged the fortress, while the defenders, confident in their security of the place, hurled fearful blasphemies and godless insults at them. At daybreak on the 5th day, 20 young men of Maccabeus' force, fired with indignation at the blasphemies, manfully assaulted the wall with wild courage, cutting down everyone they encountered. Others, in a similar scaling operation, took the defenders in the rear and set fire to the towers, lighting pyres on which they burned the blasphemers alive. The first, meanwhile, breaking open the gates, let the rest of the army in, and at their head captured the town. Timotheus had hidden in a storage well, but they killed him, with his brother Chaurius and Apollophanes. Apollophanes. When all this was over, and hymns and thanksgiving, they blessed the Lord, who had shown such great kindness to Israel and given them the victory. The first campaign of Lysias, or I should say Lysias. Almost immediately afterwards, Lysias, the king's tutor and cousin, chief minister of the realm, much disturbed at the turn of events, mustered about 80,000 foot soldiers and his entire cavalry, and advanced against the Jews, intending to make the city a place for Greeks to live in, to levy a tax on the temple as other national shrines, and to put the office of high priest up for sale every year. He took no account at all of the power of God, being sublimely confident in his tens of thousands of infantrymen, his thousands of cavalry, and his 80 elephants. Invading Judea, he approached Beth Zur, a fortified position about 20 miles from Jerusalem, and began to subject it to strong pressure. When Maccabeus and his men learned that Lysias was besieging the fortresses, they and the populace with them begged the Lord with lamentation and tears. Maccabeus himself was the first to take up his weapons, and he urged the rest to risk their lives with him in support of their brothers. So they sallied out resolutely as one man. They were still near Jerusalem when a rider attired in white appeared at their head, brandishing golden weapons. With one accord they all blessed the Lord God of mercy, and found themselves filled with such courage that they were ready to lay low not men only, but the fiercest beasts in walls of iron. They advanced in battle order with the aid of their celestial ally, the Lord having had mercy on them. Charging like lions on the enemy, they laid low 11,000 of the infantry and 1,600 horsemen, and routed all the rest. Of those, the majority got away, wounded and weaponless. Lysias himself escaped only by ignominious flight. Lysias makes peace with the Jews. 4 letters concerning the treaty. Now Lysias was not lacking in intelligence, and as he reflected on the reverse he had just suffered, he realized that the Hebrews were invincible because of the mighty God fought for them. He therefore sent them a delegation to persuade them to accept reasonable terms all round, and promised to compel the king to become their friend. Maccabees, thinking only of the common good, agreed to all that Lysias proposed, and whatever Maccabees submitted to Lysias in writing concerning the Jews was granted by the king. Here is the text of the letter Lysias wrote to the Jews. Lysias to the Jewish people, greetings. John and Absalom, your envoys, have delivered to me the communication transcribed below, requesting me to approve its provisions. Anything requiring the king's attention, I have put before him. Whatever was possible, I have granted. Provided you maintain your goodwill toward the interest of the state, I shall do my best in the future to promote your well-being. As regards the details, I have given orders for your envoys and my own officials to discuss these with you. May you prosper. The 24th day of Dioscorus, in the year 148, the king's letter ran as follows. King Antiochus to his brother Lysias, greetings. Now that our father has taken his place among the gods, lowercase g, our will is that the subjects of the realm be left undisturbed to attend to their own affairs. We understand that the Jews do not approve our father's policy, the adoption of Greek customs, but prefer their own way of life and ask to be allowed to observe their own laws. Accordingly, since we intend this people to be free from vexation like any other, our ruling is that the temple be restored to them, and that they conduct their affairs according to the customs of their ancestors. It will, therefore, be your concern to send them a mission of friendship, so that on learning our policy, they may have confidence and happily go about their business. The king's letter to the Jewish nation was in these terms. King Antiochus to the Jewish Senate and the rest of the Jews, greetings. If you are well, that is as we would wish. We ourselves are in good health. Menelaus informs us that you wish to return home and attend to your own affairs. Accordingly, all those who return before the 30th day of Xanthicus may rest assured that they have nothing to fear. The Jews may make use of their own kind of food and their own laws as formerly, and none of them is to be molested in any way for any unwitting offenses. I am, in fact, sending Menelaus to set your minds at rest. Farewell. the 15th day of Xenocus, in the year 148. The Romans also sent the Jews a letter, which reads as follows: Quintius Memmius Titus Manlius Manus Sergius, legates of the Romans to the people of the Jews, greetings. Whatever Lysias, the king's cousin, has granted you, we also approve. As for the matters he decided to refer to the king, consider them carefully and send someone without delay, if we are to interpret them to our advantage, because we are leaving Antioch. Lose no time, therefore, in sending us those who can tell us what your intentions are. Farewell. The 15th day of Dicorius, in the year 148. Okay, that takes us to chapter 12. I never want to stop reading. I always want to know what's going to happen next. And as always, I love you. Isn't it amazing, the power of God? When the people are doing rightly and acting justly and honoring God and His ordinances, when they're performing in a way that shows God that they love and respect Him, how powerfully God responds. I mean, gosh, an angel on a horse with glittering swords and, oh my goodness, glittering weapons. Wow. Just know He goes before us into battle when we are just to follow Him according to His commandments and precepts. Just know how much He loves us. We serve such an amazing God. I am in absolute awe when I read these. When I'm reading this book. And know how God responds to those that are in His ways, doing and performing His will. Wow. Guys, we have to keep praying for America. And we have to pray for Israel and Jerusalem. Jerusalem being the apple of God's eye. Just remember, whoever curses Israel will be cursed. And our current administration is not blessing Israel. So let us continue in prayer, fervent prayer for Israel and for Jerusalem. And may God have mercy on us. And as always, I love you.